Welcome, Cait. Welcome, Bella. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'd love to take a moment to introduce myself, and then I would like for both of you to take the time to tell us who you are, who you work for, right? And a little bit about your pedigree in operating and working in the agency space, just to give some context. So I'm Melatia. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at GatherUp. I've been doing digital marketing since the last millennium, so that ages me quite a bit. I've seen search engines like when it was Lycos, Alta Vista, when Yahoo was a big deal, and then I saw Google do its whole takeover of the market. And now I'm really keen on seeing how Gen AI is going to change how people search and get information. Cait, I would love to hear some more from you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you and Winston Francois?
Yeah, I would love to. So I'm Cait. I've worked at a few tech startups, and I have been with Winston Francois for about 4 years. Winston Francois is a agency like we're a boutique consulting firm, and we help people on the growth marketing side. So we come in and staff temporarily, reshape marketing strategy, and then assist with the long-term transition. Um, and so, yeah, that is us. We work with about 10 clients at a time, so we're very small. And again, we cover things across growth marketing.
And I can vouch for Winston Francois. They've helped GatherUp reshape its marketing and had a profound effect on us. So yeah, I can totally back that up. And
Thank
now,
you.
Bella, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, yes, my name is Bella Lane. I am the CEO and founder of BLD Solutions. We are an Atlanta-based design agency. We're curious about what motivates consumers to buy, and we're passionate about using advanced technology to provide us those answers. We partner with sales and marketing teams to help increase their sales and revenues through data-driven marketing initiatives. My background is as a designer. And so messaging and the creative process is really, where my passion lies.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you both of you for joining us. So I'd love to open it up with kind of our first question. I really enjoyed your contribution, Cait, when you were talking about how you're using AI within the context of Winston Francois. And it's not in the way that some folks might be thinking in terms of like creating the creatives, but much more on the data side. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about how Winston Francois leverages AI?
Yeah, there's two different categories that I think are really important. One is operational, so AI to improve how we show up for clients and how we onboard our consultants. And then the second category of AI is like, how do we improve those gut decisions you make, right? Where the art really needs to show up. And Bella, you're probably very familiar with this, how you develop creative. We believe the AI deserves a space here to make sure that we're understanding personas well, we're understanding interactions from social listening, and we're building what that next hook is to make sure the performance marketing is really effective, the organic posts are really effective, and we're continually iterating in that space. So that's the two categories we use AI right now is one in operational, which is just digesting information, right, from our clients and trying to win on the race to be informative and helpful with our client relationships. And then the other is in terms of creating a better mechanism for what is the brief? What are we trying to do? What is the actual ask from the creative to make sure that they're thinking about it and spending the right amount of thought cycles in the right category. And we think that's better done with more AI on the persona investigation side.
Okay, so I would love to double click actually on the 2 points that you've done. So the first one, you've shared with me that you've used it to do analysis, right? Before you dive into actually engaging with your client, you digest a bunch of information using AI. Do you want to walk us through a little bit about like maybe a premise where you came in with an assumption and the data processed through AI actually changed how you were looking at the data, or maybe even
Yeah.
the assumption that you had?
Yeah, I'll even like the common thing that's happening actually, and helping us guide is when we have a discovery call with a client, it's typical that the leader of the brand wants a certain movement from a KPI. And their ask is obviously support, right? But we need to refine the ask to make sure we're staffing correctly and we're targeting our solutions correctly. And typically, it is a miss. So typically, what has happened in the history of Winston Francois is that the leader, the CEO or the founder, is able to articulate the major KPI they want to move, right? That is pretty far from a performance marketing metric. That's pretty far from a life cycle metric, right? And so what we've used AI for recently, and in the first version, we actually just used ChatGPT for this. We didn't use anything fancy, no like subscription that was different. We started ingesting the business metrics and the marketing strategy and coming back and saying like, well, we're interpreting that this may be the gap. Do you think we should solve this first, right? And it turns out that the CEO, the founder was thinking like marketing solved this problem. And it ends up being that like first we have to tackle this thing. And if they're different, saying that upfront before we engage in the partnership is really healthy, right? Instead of while we're there saying, actually, we want to move to over here, right? And so we found that to be super valuable. And also it takes minutes instead of weeks to read through reports, understand the business problem, and ask back and forth questions. So that has been helpful. Again, we used to use ChatGPT to do this, and we've now onboarded a different service that's doing this just for agencies and internal teams to digest. They plug in with Slack, they plug in with Google Sheets and Google Drive. And so we're porting everything into those instances to make sure that we're able to synthesize into the categories and the threads that we're interested in.
Interesting. Do you want to share with us what this secret tool is, or do you want to keep that in your back pocket?
I can't, it's in pilot mode. So I don't
okay.
think they're actually accepting customers. They're an old colleague of mine at Uber. And so we're very excited to have this come to market, but I don't think it's actually open. So yeah. And
Well,
they may
maybe,
change their name, but I will follow up if it's open or when it's open, I'm happy to share.
yeah, great. Well, maybe we'll do a follow-up discussion with you in 6 months when it goes live so that we can get, all of the information on it.
Yeah.
Bella, do you have a perspective on how AI has helped you and your organization with understanding your clients' needs, maybe even repositioning their ask?
Yes, definitely. Obviously people have an idea of what works, but then they will come to an agency like ours wanting better return. And so it's taking what does work, and then, using AI to strip that down and then take what is working and rebuild something that will give. And obviously through that transition, there is, that our customer journey rather than their customer journey. So we definitely, assist with that and explain how, AI can help make and drive certain decisions, the value of AI, because this is really about how to introduce AI and how to use AI to address these issues. So, just sort of like, just educating them on that process, making them aware of why, we're actually even making these suggestions, because the original ask is usually we want to increase sales, we want to increase efficiency, we want to increase return on investment. So yes, definitely, I would agree with Cait that sometimes the challenge is, explaining to people that there's a new way of doing things that will get you better results. But the proof is always in the pudding. So once you show the results, then everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So some of our, oh, sorry, Cait,
If
please.
I could ask Bella a question, actually, I have heard a lot of tension when we say we use AI and we have creative for performance, a lot of tension in, well, will the images, the assets come out without hands? Like there's a lot of anticipation of how we use AI to be like just this one iteration or this one example. And it's interesting, like, do you get that pushback or hesitation of creative supposed to be creative and not AI generated? Like where are you receiving feedback there?
Yeah, so, to be creative, in my opinion, is human. And I don't think we're at the point where we can rely on AI
Yeah.
to truly create. It's in a learning phase. So maybe, in 5, 10 years, once creatives have inputted enough projects, they will learn. But generally, we're not eliminating the human creative process. We're using AI to like data-driven analysis and predictions to get a better outcome.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, for us, you come to us because we're a creative design agency. It means that you want that human touch.
Yeah.
You want that element. But explaining to them how we utilize AI to benefit them, because as a creative, we may create the brand, the messaging, based off of the data that we're given, but there's also activation. There's so much more outside of beyond the creative. So that's how we integrate AI as tools to help our clients to manage that piece more internally,
Mm-hmm.
while being able to leverage, we talk about privacy, and I know we're going to go into that and everything, but aligning up with making sure that everything is best practices. So we're not eliminating the creative. We're not using AI to create the overall brand or create. We're not using AI in that. We're using it in activation, automation, digital asset management, reviews, we're using it in that manner, project management, those types of ways.
So, in your opinion, is there a place where AI should not go? Like as an agency, as a steward of the brand of your customers or the experience behind it, we've talked a little bit about the creative process, but is there a place where AI is either not ready to go into? And I think you're touched on that a little bit there, Bella, but like that you wouldn't rely on at all? Because I know that people throw in AI as a cure for everything. And there might be places where it might not be appropriate. And actually, I'd love to hear from the attendees as well. Is there a place where you think AI does not have a role to play? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Cait, Bella.
I would like to say that I'm not an expert or privy to the full power of AI today, but I know we're not ready. I know we're not ready. And that's the pushback that Cait's talking about. It can be what we want it to be, but we're not quite ready for that, because a lot of what I hear a lot about is job replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another conversation, but that's a big concern with AI, is job replacement. And a lot of times when I'm speaking with decision makers, marketing VP, marketing execs, that is something that is in the back of their mind when they are making these types of decisions. But again, that's, productivity is where we focus on, return on investment is where we focus on. But especially with corporate, it's a big shift for them. So for us as a design agency, our value add is our knowledge of what works, our knowledge of, what's a good creative piece, and not. and allow AI to do the hard work, the hard lift of the research and the analysis and the predictions and the automation. But I think AI is I think there is something out there that could replace a creative like myself. But I don't think corporate America's ready for that. I'm not sure about other industries.
Okay. Cait, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think there is just this this mistrust or this like confidence that has to be built yet from like where does AI sit and how can it work with me? We see this at the consultant level where we're like, use ChatGPT and then edit it. It is quicker than sitting there and looking at a blank screen, right? And I think there's still hesitation that, but it's my work, I want to do it. And so I don't know why they're, I think we just have to get to a place where we're working with it and we're understanding how it fits in our daily lives and is supporting, like Bella said, our productivity, right? It's making us smarter quicker. It's helping us leverage information in a different way. It's just a different type of researching right now, right? And it's faster. And I think we just have to move the needle on our acceptance. I agree that Winston Principle is not yet leveraging it across everything. We are not yet building the right tools to make it integrated into all of our practices. We're kind of spot treatment AI. And so that's also cumbersome in different ways, right? And we have visions of how this could be, where there'd be a unified dashboard with everyone to log in and all their information is TLDR'd every day, right? And so we have this vision of what we want to build. There's the builders required for that. There's the time and the effort. And so we definitely aren't fully leveraging AI the way I think we will in the future. And I think a lot of perception has to change in order to get there, because we still need everyone to utilize it and adopt it. And it's just like Asana or like any kind of project management software, right? Like you need the users to adopt it and be users, be super users. And so I don't think we're there yet as a team.
Sorry. I did want to just put it in something else on this, which is like today, customers expect solutions that do have a certain expectation. And AI tools help us reach that expectation. So as a creative, yes, I have my own personal sort of emotional attachment to AI. But as an agency, as I said, we're focused on what makes someone buy or, make that purchase. They have a certain expectation that has increased, your report touched on that, Mel, as well. So, there is that balance of like, okay, especially with global marketing, for example, because, these days we're not just marketing to say a certain region or certain country, and then you have, all these different variable regulations. You're trying to activate, say, a global marketing campaign, utilizing AI tools, can help you be more efficient. So again, as a creative with an agency, I'm not looking at it from the point of, do I want AI to design something? I'm looking at it from a point of view as how can I use AI to help meet that expectation? And data is showing that, the audience is looking for that expectation. So, there is an emotional factor in it, but the data doesn't lie. So if we look at data, it's really about how can we use AI to meet that expectation of today.
So I want to go into different directions here, and we have a comment actually here from Jamie that I want to read out, but I do have another component to my question here. So Jamie shared with us, these days, I believe the system solution is in any vertical is still where our value add lies. So I'm thinking this is within the context of an agency. Until we have highly vertically integrated agents, there won't be job replacement. And I agree with Jamie here. Google is banking on small language models for the future. This all comes back to vertical experts as opposed to LLMs doing it all. So I agree with that. There's one component about AI where if we start over relying on AI and we trust the output too much, there's a danger of hallucination, right? Or it just going off course. How do you put guardrails to make sure that there's not that human verification behind whatever data that comes out? Because it may just spit out something that makes no sense. And since we're using it to guide us in decisions and put in a lot of data into it, how would you recommend we safeguard against that?
Well, I mean, that's where the human expertise comes in, the real, what I call real life, experience, Um, I did actually make some notes here, just about some of the things that, can kind of sort of like offset that. But, obviously like defining the solutions, capabilities and limitations, accepting that it has limitations and how you're going to use that tool, you know. Again, we're not talking about eliminating that human contact, but if you're going to hire, if your business model is that you want to use AI to replace high skilled, well, you may have an issue there because there is no checks and balances. So I feel like for us, that's one thing. Like, again, we're not eliminating who we are and our experience of just being able to look at data and say, okay, I want to know more, because then you can get more. But without that input, the AI is only going to be good as the input that you put in. I guess that's what really I'm saying.
Okay. Cait, any perspective here?
Yeah, I think it's a gathering tool right now. It's very dangerous to publicly share what the response is without a human editor. And we do the same thing, by the way, for blog content. We do the same thing. I mean, even in this discussion, I said, what are the top agency things, right? And then we still filtered it with our own knowledge of what we're going to be attacking for 2025. And so I think it's just a research gathering tool at the moment, for me at least personally, and then I'll say for Winston Francois. I think a lot of companies are building SaaS tools that are connecting AI to different solutions, and I don't think the quality is there yet. I mean, I'm an early adopter of a lot of them, and I don't think it's there yet. So I don't know that AI is ready to be a final solution delivered to anyone. At the moment. But I'm happy if anyone's on this call that feels differently, like message me. I want to see it. I want to try it. I want to be a part of practicing what that is.
Fair enough. My final question on AI, unless folks in the audience have questions, I would love to know, how do you overcome skepticism? This is a point of feedback that I've had from several leaders contributing to the piece, which was, we get resistance from our clients as to how this will impact their data, the information that I'm putting into the system. So how do you deal with a skeptical client that does not want the use of AI? And, do you overcome it? Do you listen and just, go about it the hard way? How would you go about it?
I can go first and say how we go about it is we're trying to reduce cost so that we can support more brands. Right now, our price point prohibits us from supporting brands long term, and so prohibits us from entering companies when they're seed to kind of B round of funding. And so we want to offer our team and our expertise to those other client types. It's just that we haven't been able to price and mix the right delivery for them. So for us, it is accepting the fact that AI and also offshore, there's like a combination of ways in which we can decrease our costs to the clients. And that allows us to deliver our expertise and our support. And so it is, for us, it's a partnership agreement. It either is we include it so that we can serve them, or we can't. There's been a few clients who have been just sticklers on using AI for meeting notes. And so that's quite interesting. So we've added a project manager to attend meetings and take those notes. But we'll agree and kind of customize it. But ultimately, there's a direct relationship of cost. And so that's how we've anchored it so far.
Okay, so if I understood you correctly, Cait, the way you would bring this forward to a client that's skeptical is there's just a lot more costs if you choose not to go down the AI route. And so it's either, and I think that this is the perennial challenge of agencies, is your costs, your people power scales up sort of like with your business. So the more customers you have, the more people you need to deliver on the services. It's not something where you can have economies of scale like a SaaS product. And so this is where the challenge is. AI helps you get these optimizations that you wouldn't normally get, I guess.
Absolutely. I think there are economies. It's not a one or the other. There are still economies of scale, but there are roles and functions you require if you don't have the ability to process that without a human, right? And so there's just more hours required if an account wouldn't want AI. And by the way, AI is not used on any of our accounts now. So it's not an unsuccessful position for us. However, like I said, our number of clients is pretty low.
That's fair. I also think that there's likely sensitivity for agencies that are specialized in like highly sensitive verticals like healthcare. I could see that AI could be problematic in using that. Actually, I'd love to jump onto sort of like another tactic here. Well, another topic which was really important, which is around privacy. So Devin's not here. That was sort of like his big thing, but I would love to hear your perspective, right? There's more and more regulations around how we collect data, how we track folks online with the CCPA, GDPR, and whatever new regulation is coming down the pike. There's this balance between folks being impatient and wanting a hyper-personalized experience, so your clients' expecting that, and the fact that there's fewer and fewer ways to aggregate this data. So do you have perspectives on how to overcome this challenge of personalizing the experience, reducing friction, but also dealing with the fact that there are less ways for you to target and personalize? That's okay if there's no answer here.
We haven't used AI to personalize a message to the end consumer on behalf of a brand. We've used AI, like I said, to discover persona gaps and use creative to fill those gaps. But that's a human thinking through how to communicate and fill that gap. So we haven't yet delivered AI that delivers to the end user, and that would not breach any privacy information. Everything's in aggregate, and nothing is individualized so far, other than I think that's why the recording of meetings is so private to some people, because it is actual names attached to actual statements. But that's the only use so far.
Okay, fair. Sorry, I may have mispositioned my question. I wanted to remove AI from the equation. Now I just wanted to talk about personalization in today's world, where there are, cookieless tracking, and there's a lot less ability to personalize with using third-party data. How do you overcome that as an agency to help your customers succeed in reaching their audiences?
So we work with large sales and marketing departments, and typically they get their lists from Google Ads marketing through lead generation forms and marketing efforts. So really it's about being in compliance. And as things keep changing, they're constantly adapting. But, to go back to like originally about the adoption of AI, I mean, we're all using AI. Salesforce is using AI, Canva's using AI, Slack's using AI. We're using AI all the time. Google is using AI. So um, so for us, what we're finding is, okay, with all the constraints, how can we get more data on people without without, it's getting a little bit trickier, to finagle through that process. And so we do use some tools to help us like gather information. And there are some really, really, really good AI, softwares out there that can really help you like amass like data, and lifestyle entities. And we do a lot of things that's also sort of like not just personalizing the experience, but also based off of like what device they're using, what location they're at, just really getting into. So we're not really kind of like, we've never really been someone who pushed mailing list, buying mailing list, third-party list, we were never sort of in that space. So I would highly recommend that you use a fresh approach. Look at it from a like, I'm old enough to know what it was like before there were these mailing lists that you buy, and almost go back to the but using this new tool and sort of approach it from a different, like, you want real customers, real potential customers, not mailing lists that you've purchased from a third party. So I've never recommended that approach. It is harder to build an organic, proper database of clients, but that's where we come in. It's how do you retain those clients? How do you keep them engaged? And automating that system and bringing it back in-house, because that's another thing as well. It's like people want it in-house, and they, with the tools and everything, it's the idea is to bring it back in-house. And so we're using AI to create solutions to allow company, we structure, we brand, we message, we get that clear pathway, that new journey, and then we help them activate that. And using AI, automating things, helping them to make those decisions, like even with Gather Up, automating, reviews and things like that. That's how we are recommending AI to work in this new environment. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Cait, actually, there was Jamie, I believe, said that it's a pain point of his personas, building personas. And at the beginning of the discussion, you talked about how you leverage AI to build these personas. How do you go about it? Is there like a process or pieces of information that is particularly helpful in building the story for the customer as to who they should be targeting?
I think so. What we start with is doing a scraping, basically, of the brand and who is commenting on and what they are commenting on. So whether it's a positive or negative. We go across all social platforms, so Meta, Twitter, LinkedIn, actually, and Reddit. And we see what people are commenting on, how they're reacting to certain responses. And then we categorize those people based on their information. So that's the first bucketing system. Then we look at what are the top 3 competitors and where are they who's commenting on them and what the reactions are, what their primary hooks are on the paid side and organic side on social. And then we say, where's the white space? I think this is just how we refine a creative brief. Whereas originally you had a strategist sitting, trying to uncover this direction themselves, right? And so this is where we are using AI and we are kind of collecting that information better. And allowing that to say, okay, what we boil it down to is there's 4 evergreen personas that you're likely targeting today. We try to boil it down to 4, and then we say, what are the 4 net new personas we should target? And that helps us leverage expansion with creative. And so that's what we're doing on the persona side. it's been very eye-opening because part of it is also a conversation back with the founder to say that they may not want to go into those expansion categories, right? Or on the opposite side, we found that of who they're targeting and who's reacting today, they may not have wanted one of those audience types, right? And so it's just a very helpful conversation on the business side and then also on the creative side.
Super insightful. Bella, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we use an AI tool called Clue, QLOO.
Oh,
Yeah. They've been around for years. They, I mean, I don't want to say they have the world's richest database of lifestyle entities, and consumer preference data, but they're pretty good. They allow us to, really get the data and make those predictions, and it helps us develop like personalized experience because sometimes our brand is a person, a real person, and we have to create that image. And sometimes it's a product or a sub brand, but they have some amazing tools. They have recommendations, an AI tool for recommendations, audience intelligence. They use AI in lots of taste analysis, data licenses, LLM integration, just a variety of AI tools. So we partner with them and we lean heavily on their reputation and them knowing and doing what they do best.
so QLOO?
Yes.
I've never heard of them up until now. Are there other tools, attendees, that you use that you'd like to share with others around how you build these personas and how you get this critical information? I wanted to, as we wait for those answers, I'd love to go a little bit further with you, Cait. So in building these personas, I love the fact that you've talked about competitors and identifying this white space, right? This opportunity for a business to go after maybe an underserved market. If I bring it back into the context of local marketing, where you can have a business, three of similar businesses that offer a similar service, how do you use that kind of tool to distinguish your client from the other competitors in the space?
It's a good question. So in local marketing, we have a few clients that were doing that had storefronts and they were scaling. They started in LA and then they ended up scaling all the way down to Texas. And how we use this like creative insight tool, is that the question, right? In that mechanism. What we found out is the buyer persona in Texas is much different than the buyer persona in LA. Everyone can assume that. But the interesting component is like, but who are they? What is their price point, sensitivity, and what should we offer if we're open to offering different things? It turned out that at first was totally familiar 6 years ago when they launched in LA. And no one wants to download an app to visit a storefront today. That's just not a common behavior. And so we had to develop a web reservation system for the Texas market. And I would argue we probably would have had to develop that also in LA if we had launched the same date. So yeah, I think uncovering who you're about to reach and what their preferences are is like really important and always included in a creative brief. That's not net new. It's just net new how we find that insight.
Yeah. Bella, any thoughts there?
So how do you find that insight, Cait?
Yeah, so we use this this mechanism of two different ways. So one, like I said, we can do the AI scraping of your brand and your competitors to say who are the people you're attacking and then what are the persona definitions behind that so we can better articulate. So like in this instance, we had the tech forward team in LA, right, that we were targeting. And in Dallas, we realized it's mostly this was for a pet company. And so it was mostly pet owners that were that were an older demographic and had a higher income and were also had more available time. So like the urgency of being able to book on app, the urgency of availability in a store was not the same. And so we had to come up with a different angle in that instance. The other component is we believe in piloting and learning through pilots. So instead of just launching the same thing, the same playbook in Texas, instead we said, let's launch with a set amount of spend. Let's monitor these indicators, these early indicators, which founders never want to hear about, right? They only want the North Star metric. But let's listen for these early indicators and then let's see what we learn from that and let's pause and adapt. And that's where we developed that web booking system to solve.
That's super cool. Okay. So
Yeah,
I'd like to open up. Sorry, go for it.
No, I just think it's interesting how you can get into, you know, when you enter into a brand, you can really be pervasive in how we solve problems, right? It's not just, it's interesting because I think people always think marketing is like the ads or marketing is the message. And I think we're strategic problem solvers, right? And so it's just a different perception, but definitely fun and challenging.
Indeed. Bella, anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I did want to add a couple of other tools that I use that might be helpful. Adobe Experience Cloud. We use that for generative AI. We also love it because it allows us to create the brand, the templates, and then pass that over to our client and for them to then be able to do multi-channel marketing. And it allows us to be able to do content management, customer data. It has a customer data platform and also campaign management. So we do like using the Adobe Experience Cloud. It's got Workfront underneath there. That's like a project management tool, but definitely their tool to create content that we've already designed and say, okay, we want you to create a template. We want you to resize and this, that, and the other. And that tool isn't something that we ourselves would use, but it would allow our clients, our customers to be able to use. So we do like that. And another one is we love Motion as a project management tool for designers. It does a lot of the thinking, organization, and just project management planning. I did like Cait's response that, you know, people still want to see a physical project manager there. And that was a good example of where we are right now, even though we don't necessarily need a human person right there. So yeah, I just wanted to mention those two as well.
Well, thank you. I love this resource sharing. And if folks have more resources that they want to share, I'd love to see it in the chat or the question panel. I'd love to open up the floor to attendees. Do you have questions you'd like for them to discuss? We didn't talk too much about privacy and regulations, but if there's anything you'd love to know, you've got Bella and Cait here ready and willing to answer questions. I see here a comment from TC Adams. So he says that he's definitely excited for the Adobe AI resizing tool. So he's currently manually resizing a poster for social. That's a lot of work right there, especially having to resize assets. I've found, and although this is not a typical agency tool, but I like Canva and how they do smart resizing when you need to in there. I have not found the AI generation in terms of images particularly good though in that tool, but I do like it for ideas. Like if you have like a blank page syndrome, I love just using AI to kind of like get the flow going, but I'm not necessarily crazy about the actual output.
I think one of the things I like, I'm not an advocate of Canva. But one of the things that I can see is such a benefit for people who are not in the know is that print version, because, you know, one of the things that is always difficult for printers is when they get digital files, you know, and I do like the fact that you can create something in Canva and then you can print. And even if you don't use their printer, it does that part for you. And that, like, in terms of dollar amount and time and in savings, you know, if you're doing something in Canva, you can actually also have a full-blown print campaign come out of it as well.
Yeah, I've used it for that, but for some volunteer work that I've done in the past. So
Yeah, but you still can't beat a good designer though.
for sure, for sure. I'm not, you know, like I'm not taking away from the important work that digital agencies have, right? You know, I think the big thing is businesses are highly specialized in delivering that one piece of value that they do. And oftentimes marketing is just sort of like the last thing they tack on because suddenly they need to grow and suddenly they need to figure out, you know, how they can go and get more business elsewhere. And the fact that it's an afterthought, it kind of positions the digital agency in having to have this deep advisory, like I can't, it's not just the ads, it's not just the print stuff. I need to go in and understand everything behind the business so that I can actually deliver results for you. So I'm not taking anything away from digital agencies. I think the work that everybody is doing in that space is really important. Jamie has a question here, actually. So are you playing with multiple LLMs? Or do you subscribe? Do you have a preference for different aspects of your work when it comes to art, planning, copy? I heard a little bit saying that there would be different tools used, but I think he'd like some clarifications. Okay, do you want to jump in?
We are playing with a lot. We have an engineering team building out different options. We are thinking of what subscription we could build into. We have tried to build our own tools and test them in market. So there's like no route we aren't taking. It's just not at the same speed as managing the agency. So there's just yeah, we are trying to be as innovative and creative there by redirecting funds and time and space. So nothing material to announce though. Just all playing at the moment.
Nice. And Bella, you mentioned quite a few specialized AI tools already. Do you want to?
We're using it internally as well. We are using it internally. Reports, you know, summaries. But we're using it to assist, but we have writers. We have creative writers that learn the language, the tone of our customer or our audience. That's something AI can't help us with. That's something that we have to create and adapt and evolve. But once that's done, then we can use AI. We can use AI to write blogs. You know, once we know the tone, we can use AI. We use AI in those for our own internal. We don't actually do the communications for our clients. That's not our role. And so, but we would highly recommend once they have their, you know, persona to use, I like copy.ai. It's just such a simple thing. It rewrites any paragraph in any, you know, I do like copy. That's one of my favorite go-tos rather than chat. I would rather go there. I do like copy because if I write things, I have my notes and I have all this stuff and it just goes out on the page. And then, you know, you just put it in there and it restructures it and everything. So, you know, I am using it in that way, but we're like, we wouldn't, if we wouldn't do a Canva campaign, for example, you know, we're still very traditional.
Thank you. We have somebody, actually, TC talked about Grammarly's AI tool. So they've been helping him sound more on brand or correct in it with any grammar issues. I know a few people who uses it. I would say so I'm not an agency person, but I'll rely on AI as my proofreader, more like passing it through once I have all of my thoughts down, and it will help me restructure it. I still have to go in and make changes, but at the very least, it helps my ideas flow better. Well, Cait, Bella, thank you so much for being here today. I am incredibly thrilled at how you've rolled with the punches. I started the webinar with no waiting room. We didn't even have a chance to chat together before. I am very grateful for the work that you've done and the knowledge that you've shared. Folks, tomorrow we have a second panel, and we have Joy Hawkins, we have Ron Callis, and we have Jim McDonald. They're going to be sharing AI as well, more on AI and that in the relation of search, but also local search changes and trends, and also some more content that I just can't think of off the top of my head, but it should be a really good and super engaging session. Again, Bella, Cait, do you want to do one last time? Tell us who you are, how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in more information. So, Cait, do you want to tell us more about you and Winston Francois and how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm Cait. Again, I am the CEO of Winston Francois. We work with Series B and above tech firms, helping them build their growth operating systems. So we come in and support short-term solutions from a staffing perspective and reshape strategy. My email can be short. It can be c@wf.com. Let me know if you want to chat, and also find me on LinkedIn. We can share insights and go back and forth. I appreciate the invite today and sharing.
Thank you, Cait. And Bella, how can folks find you and get in touch with you?
Oh, wonderful. Website is bld-solutions.com. Email, you can get me at bella@bld-solutions.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Bella Lane. I just want to say that, I am really excited about AI and all that it brings. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for everybody. And I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you both. I'm Melatia. I'm the VP Marketing here at GatherUp. This session was recorded and we'll be distributing it after. Again, big thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the attendees. And I'll be seeing all of you hopefully tomorrow. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.